Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey. And today I have my great friend and leader, John Melhorn here. John, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
So, John, tell me a little bit about what you do now, currently, how you got here.
Okay. So, you and I know each other from way back in college.
Yeah.
Which is getting way back now, more and more every year. And my wife was your roommate in college, which was cool
Yes.
to know you have known you guys for this long. And you've seen me. I started in architecture school at
Yep.
University of Miami. And then we lived in New York for a little bit when you guys were in Philly.
Yep.
And then when we came back down here, I started my own architecture practice. And it's grown, and through mergers and partnerships and then buyouts, and here we are. And I've got a architecture and construction company now based in Jupiter, Florida, that we build custom residential homes for special clients.
They are very special, and the homes are very, very special. And tell me about that, because it's just even the way you say it. Like, I feel like you really have an understanding for the people that you serve. And I know, like, that's really your heart is like all about really serving the families that you build for. So can you tell me just a little bit about like what that means to you, like that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I realized, like obviously, the reason, so I grew up in Kansas. The reason I don't live in Kansas now is I can't practice the same type of architecture that I do there.
Okay.
Uh,
Why is that?
well, I was
What
to
does
say
that
that
look
being
like?
said, like just the level at which we like to practice, that I would say the cost value, the
Mhm.
design, it's just a different market.
Yeah.
It's more of a luxury market, which is what I practice in. But in terms of why I'm bringing that up is how it relates to the people, is that it's also a crowded market down here. I mean, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of competition. And so
Okay.
how we stand out is that I like to look at it as that we are a guide for our
Ooh,
clients,
I like
right?
that
So
word.
we get just like us. I mean, even though we've lived down here now for 15 plus years, like there's still a lot of Floridians or transplants, and so
Yeah.
you're coming down here, and it's very different than where I grew up or where I worked in New York, um, and so you kind of have to get both acclimated, I think, to that process, and you need some familiarization with how things work down here.
Mm-hmm.
And since COVID, we've had a huge surge of people that have moved down
Yeah.
here, and this is for a lot of good reasons.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good climate. I think socially, politically, environmentally, all those things are great.
Yeah.
Economically, but I think people come down with like the expectations of what it's like where they lived before, and so that's, anyways. The long story short
Interesting.
is like
Huh.
we want to be the guide to those
Yeah.
clients when they come down here and help them from start to finish, understanding what the lifestyle is like, what it takes to build a house,
Mm.
help build a network, help build relationships, and ultimately build their home.
Wow. So it's so much more than just somebody building your home. Like it just really is such a process of like building the relationship with them and like kind of navigating the path alongside of them, right? Is that like
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
what it
And
looks like?
I mean, you think about it, a lot of people have done either some renovation work or any project that you're going to undertake has thousands of decisions. I was
Mm.
just talking with a client the other day, and I went into the Google Gmail and I searched for like his address just for a second. I was looking for something, and I had 1,800 hits come up just with the address
Oh
based
my
on his
gosh.
project, right? And so over a 2-3 year project, you've got 2,000 emails going back and forth that
Wow.
we've done, and that's just with me and him.
Wow.
And so you realize how much goes into that. And so there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of pitfalls
Hmm.
that can come from that too. Designing a home for a client is ultimately like a very intimate process. You get into kind of the details of how they live their life, what their family dynamic is like.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
You're
every
there.
little personal thing.
It's almost
Yeah,
like you
you talk.
join the family for a bit of time in a
You do
way.
sometimes, yeah, right? They're like, yeah, you're the nephew I never had, or something like that, right? Too, and that's true. But that's where, anyways, that's where I want to help walk through those things and like treat it. One of our company core values is stewardship,
Okay.
and so that's kind of the concept of it's very similar to ownership, but it's understanding that somebody's trusting you with something very precious to them. So it's
Yeah.
their time, it's their money, and all those things that go into building. Like you're spending your time, you're investing your treasure in that. And so
Hmm.
how do we come alongside, take good care of that, treat it like it's our own, make it the best use of it, but then ultimately at the end we gotta like give it back. It's not our home.
Right.
It's not really my uncle.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's a business relationship.
Hmm.
It's a professional service that we offered.
And what I see in you and your team, as I've gotten to know, the team a little bit too, what I think is so cool about it is that you're really able to balance the the business side of it, like keeping it very professional and above board and all those things to excellence. But then also you're able to be warm and engaging and really serve as like wise counsel for your clients and families throughout that process as well.
Hmm.
So I think that's such a unique balance. And I think it's a hard balance for people to strike, right? Like the maintaining the professionalism, but balancing it with the really personable relationship aspect, So you do
Yeah,
that well.
it's true. It is all relationships. There's a lot of things in there that you just said that resonate because it's a service business. Like you can't forget that ultimately you work for your
Yeah.
client,
Yeah.
right? But it's great because you get the benefit of getting to build these beautiful projects for your client, and without them, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And you do want to. The goal for me too is to form that relationship.
Mm.
And I, people always ask when you're done, like, hey, what would you change about this project? Would you do differently? Do you still like it? And those kind of things. And like for me, most projects, I would change almost all of it because we've learned like over the 2-3 years
Yeah.
differences and times have changed, but it doesn't mean it's not a beautiful house. And so my point to that is that what I really want to see at the end of the project is a strong relationship, truthfully, because that's how we get our next project is
Yeah.
these referrals and clients investing in us and marketing for us and being a spokesperson for us. And it's an easy litmus test of if you did a good job or not, is if the relationship stands, because that means that ultimately they're happy with the house, they're
That's
happy
right.
with the service that you gave them, and they're happy with the process.
That is so true. And I've seen you be able to do that. So that's just amazing. Just like what a testament to the work.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what your story is, like how you got here. So at Storywork, we always talk about defining your story and then making it matter. So, kind of those themes throughout your life. Can you tell me a little bit about, how you grew up and how you even got to want to pursue architecture in the first place?
All right. So that's actually a really funny story. I went to University of Miami, like I kind of mentioned, and on the first day, like most college kids, you're supposed to be there at 8 or something. I think I rolled in at like 8:45, and they had just gone around the room and asked everybody why they wanted to be an architect, and I kind of was like, "Shh, I'm glad I missed that because I don't really know. I didn't
I don't know
know. I
the
just was
answer.
kind of." But I will say, since then, I've given it a lot of thought, and there's a lot of components of architecture that suit my personality and that I like. So for me, architecture is a tangible practice, which means
Okay.
like it's hands-on.
Yes.
It's like it's tactile. You get to see it built. You start with something, and you imagine it, and there's a vision for it, and you bring it to life. And
Mm.
I really like that aspect of it. There's a emotional component to it.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about earlier, uh, the empathy, the
Yeah.
listening, the understanding like what people really want, and I think the way that you can emotionally I don't want to say manipulate, but like the way you emotionally affect people through the process. I
Like
think
you're
like how their home is.
translating like
Yes.
what they're
Well, like the
saying
emotions
and
that they're
then
gonna, yeah, that, but like also what they're gonna get out of it, like what they're gonna feel from it, how you
okay.
make people feel. I like that process a lot. And then it's a technical practice. So like both of my parents are doctors. I didn't want to be a doctor, but I like the technical aspects of it. I'm not a master of any one specific thing, but
Yeah.
in architecture, you have to know the aesthetics, the art, the the context, the zoning, the
Yes.
structural, mechanical, climactic, financial, um, yeah, just every kind of you kind of touch every little piece and trade throughout that whole process. The relational piece,
Yeah.
the people piece, and so those are kind of the reasons why I like it because I think at heart I try to tell our team that we're problem solvers.
I love
Really,
that.
like we all
Mhm.
architecture is kind of a problem. I have a site,
Yeah.
I have a program, I have a client, I have a budget, a schedule,
It's a lot of
a
things.
building department. Like, how do we make all those things fit together? How do we still make it beautiful? And how do we get it done on time? And so I like the challenge of that.
That's cool.
Hmm.
So it's like this big Rubik's Cube. You're like, how do I put all these pieces together to get them in
Yeah,
the right place, like
yeah.
where they need to
And
be?
sometimes, I think people have a vision of an architect working kind of in isolation with like a big blank sheet and coming up with all this creativity. I like the collaborative effort of it. That's also one of our core values of our
Yes.
company is collaboration. So
Mhm.
with architecture and construction, it sort of harkens back to that original master architect where you designed it and you're responsible for building it and everything's in-house and you take ownership of the whole piece of it. And so having the architects, having the project managers, superintendents all in the same office working together collaboratively, speaking to each other consistently and having a common language helps all of us be better at what we do.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny. Even before you said that sentence, I was thinking about the two pieces and how, a lot of times there's just architecture, right? And there's just construction over here. But what's so great, and I think that relates to some of the work that we do too, is really taking people through the entire process. And that's why we marry the life and the business strategy, because we are guiding them and those things have to move together for true growth
Hmm.
to happen. And so I think for you, it's so cool to see both of those pieces moving together in an integrated manner. And the outcome is so much better because of it. Like wholehearted just comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like it truly is like because you've done those in parallel,
You have more
it's
buy-in from
seamless.
everybody. I think because everybody, so for the construction, they're always looking ahead at what's coming along and they're
Hmm.
having conversations on that. And then for the architects, they're not getting left behind once the construction is done. They still have some buy-in in it, and they're learning from the results of that and how the things that they draw turn out in construction. And construction feels like they have some input on how it's going at the beginning. And then, like I said, for me, it puts we're really aligned with the owner and like what's best for them too, because not to like denigrate other architects, but
Yeah.
if you're just an architect, for example, you can just design and design and design. And that's what you get paid is to design. And so if it goes through multiple reviews, or the building department or the town review board wants you to keep making changes, like that's what you do. You just draw and you
Yeah.
design, and it's great, and it's a worthy practice. But having the urge and the sense of urgency to get it into construction and like see it built and
Yep.
follow through, and knowing that you're responsible for that thing the whole way through, I think gives you more stewardship of that.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see like buy-in from a team, collaboration, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, I want to ask you a question about the as you look back, like what is throughout this journey so far the most important trait that has carried you through?
Um, it's probably two. I would say one is just kind of persistence,
Yeah,
perseverance, how you're gonna call it. I think for most people,
definitely.
I think I heard a quote once. It's like, if you look back, you've survived 100% of your hardest days,
Just to
and you're
not
and you're
quit.
still here, right? No, but like you've made it, right? You make it through all the hardest days you've had in your life. Like
Yeah.
you've made it, and I think that that's definitely the thing. I have another friend of mine who runs a shell contracting company, and he had no experience in the construction industry. And I asked him, like, how did you go from, I think he was a Marine. How'd you go from being a Marine to running this company? And
Oh, yeah.
and he said, well, I found that if I showed up, told people what I was going to do, and did what
Yep.
I said, and showed up on time, like it worked out. And I think that's really kind of been my approach too, which is like try to be transparent, simple, straightforward, be honest about it. That's integrity is our last core value there. I get
Yep.
all three of those in,
Yep. I
and it's
love
like,
it.
but it's just saying what you're going to do and doing it, and not really worrying about what's in it for me, and am I going to make enough money on this, and what's our margin, and those kind of
That's
things. I
right.
mean, certainly it's a business. We look at and run all those things, but just doing what you're saying you're going to do and being true to
Mhm.
that. And like I said, with that's what creates the lasting relationship at the end and gets you new projects. And then you get to do
So
better
good.
projects, because no matter how much you market yourself or you put out there with your pretty pictures and
Mhm.
those kind of things, like it's relational,
It
it's
is.
network, and it's somebody else saying, I had a great experience with this person, and
Yep.
you should use them.
That is so true. That's so good. Yep, perseverance. So you're here. You didn't quit. You're still here.
I'm here.
What's the greatest challenge or triumph, I think? Like both, like on this end for you.
Um, that's a really good
I
question.
mean, so far. Like
Yeah. Well,
obviously
that's
there's
the
going to
thing.
be
That's the thing
many
too. I
more
think,
consistently.
yeah, about any kind of challenge in life is that every time you get to like a big challenge, you think that like this is the one. Like,
Right.
why me? And
Right. And
it's just
after
so
this, it's
big.
going to be fine.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Or if I
better.
can just get past this, but then like you do get past it, and now you look back on those things in retrospect, and you're like, I don't see what the big deal is. Like I have a lot more clarity
So true.
on a lot of those things, and so those. But so that actually, I guess that's to your point of like challenge versus triumph. I think that each. I mean, I try not to, but once or twice we've had some legal issues, right? I mean, those
Yeah.
always hit me hard, because I feel like, man, we've really failed
Yeah.
as a company if we're getting to a legal issue, because we haven't communicated, or we've miscommunicated, we've missed expectations.
Yeah.
So
That's hard.
those I hate. I mean, we've had setbacks, acts of God in construction. We've had
Right. Like you just things you
erosion
can't
events like
control.
hurricanes, yeah, those kind
Yeah.
of things, and each of those things give you more confidence to say, I've made it through this. We
Yep.
kept our head, we persevered,
Yep.
we stayed calm, and and we
There
made
it
it
is
right.
again.
And
Yeah.
it'll work out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's really good. You did it. You
Yeah.
made it right. You persevered through. What have you learned only through time over the years that you would tell others earlier in their journey?
That's an
Just
easy one.
listening it.
That's an easy
Yeah?
one. So
Okay.
I would say having good counsel. So
Okay.
I've
Oh,
done like
that's good.
some disc and person predictive index and those kind of things about myself too. And one of the things that I've found about myself is I'm a very collaborative person
Okay.
naturally. And but that being said, like I always felt like I had to do these things on my own. I had to prove it to myself, or if I was the leader, I needed to make these decisions. And I kind of like actually rejected that piece of myself that was collaborative. And
Oh, this is
it
so
took me away.
interesting
It took me time to get around to like
to
it's
accept it,
okay
like
to call
working
and
it
ask for
in.
help and just
I
say,
love that.
hey,
Okay.
so and so, this is the problem I'm having. And so it's not so and so anymore. Now I have friends and I have people that I've kind of put in this circle
Love
and
it.
built that. And I have found that that's helped me immensely because you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going through
It's
these
so
issues
true.
and they have challenges and we're not. You always feel like you're like reinventing the wheel. Like again, talking about problems and challenges. Every time
Hmm.
you get to a challenge, you feel like, how this is unsurmountable. How am I going to get around this? But every you poll your friends, like 4 out of 5 friends
So
have gone
true.
through a very similar issue, or know a person that's gone through an issue, whether it's a health thing or financial or whatever. And so, anyways, I would say like seeking counsel and building that circle of influence is something I would encourage you to do like really soon. And you'll find the right
Mm.
people that want the right people that will feed into you
Yeah.
are the ones who care, and they'll just do it because they care about sharing and other people and helping other people.
It's true, like mentorship.
Uh-huh.
We've been talking so much about mentorship the last few days with a couple other friends, and it's really come to mind a lot. So it's the power of it. And I was also just at the Life Work Leadership event the other day, and one of the speakers was talking about like the circles of influence that you have.
Mm-hmm.
How there's like the
Ah,
ring
Julie
one.
came
Did
back and
Julie
mentioned it to
tell
me.
you
Yeah.
about that?
Mm-hmm.
Like ring one, ring two, ring 3, 4, 5. And so you have like your peripheral friends, you have your acquaintances, and then, it gets smaller and smaller. And it's like really looking at those influences and saying, how do these need to shift according to like where I'm going and where I am in my life, And there's some that stay with you the whole way, but then there's others that move in and out. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure over the last few years, as you've really ramped up and been building this business, some of those influences have probably
Yeah.
changed, or maybe some new ones have come in. What do you really look for? Like when you think about your inner circle, the people that are really pouring into you,
Mm-hmm.
what are those characteristics that stand out to you about them?
So I don't know if I meant to try to do this, but I have kind of. You end up finding people that this is the person that I go to for business advice. This is the
Yeah,
person that I go to for family advice. This is the person that I look for our faith and our
that's
church and those
cool.
kind of things. And I think that
Yeah.
I just honestly look for the best examples of those people that I see and
Hmm.
how can I be your friend and how can I add value to what you do and how can I help advise you and you can feed into. And then it's just having humility and
Yeah.
openness and honesty. And that's the other thing I've learned
Yeah,
too,
that's
which is that
huge.
so many people, again, like we are talking about your friends and people struggling through things. I I try to be open and transparent about what I've gone through, the things that we've done, because
Yeah.
everybody else has too. And all of a sudden you start to share and they're like, I had that same experience or we've gone
Yeah.
through that. And those are great ways to connect with people.
I think that's huge. And I just want to highlight this too that you said, because I could relate so much to that, where you were just talking about how for years you knew that you were collaborative, but it's almost like you were trying to like just shut that off or just not almost not bring that piece with you. Maybe.
Yeah, I used it in one way, which is so like if we're gonna do a design or something, sure, bring the team in, let's talk about it. Let's uh, you know, make this decision like not by committee, but like let's get everybody's input and do that. But then in my own personal life, like how I run is
Yeah.
I didn't treat it the same way. And I think that's maybe that's just the way that I was raised, or you feel like, hey, as a man or a husband or a business leader, like I should be making
Should
these
like shut
decisions and
off.
I
Like,
should know what
ugh.
I have to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned that having some openness about
Mm,
what you're doing and inviting other people into that they're like most people really do care and they want to help just
yeah.
from the goodness of their heart, not for any
That is so true.
financial gain or anything like that.
Hmm.
And there's always it goes both ways. So they're helping you, but they're learning through
Yeah.
that process, and then there's opportunities for you to help them through that, and you learn and grow through that process.
That's really good. Just a takeaway, like a lesson that just stands out here is just let let that happen, I think, and bring those like what are you resisting or maybe fighting that's a part of you that when you bring it
Hmm.
with you into all areas, you'll realize that you'll have the shift that you need for that growth, you know?
Hmm.
Like once you did that, once you brought that collaboration in and humility to all those areas, like look what happens. Like look how much growth you can have that
Yeah.
benefits your family, that benefits, your business, all those
Yeah.
things.
Oh, for sure.
So
I,
it's
I have
amazing.
two thoughts about that. So one is like my business, like before I kind of put together a group of friends, I would say like, oh yeah, I think our business is run like at a 7 or an 8. Like I think we're doing pretty good. And then when you start to talk to other people and you work through things and you improve your business, you realize like maybe we're performing at like a 3. Like I think actually we're not like as good as we could be.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's a more optimistic type thing.
Yeah.
And you realize like no, we can be a lot better. There's a lot of ways that I can improve this, but you don't know that if you insulate yourself and just
Yes,
you're kind of
true.
running.
Yeah.
It's hard to have that comparison. Um,
It's good.
yeah, and then the other one I lost my train of thought on that, but like it's just being that having that openness to grow. Oh, I know what it was. Is that I think the other second part like is turning that back on yourself. So like the
Okay.
introspection on yourself. Like I said, it's like I didn't realize that I kind of shut myself off to getting counsel from other people,
Mm.
and your your ability to grow is totally related to like your ability to accept truths about yourself.
Wow, yeah, that's so good.
Right. So the more
Yes.
like if you can't turn the lens back on yourself and say, how what am I doing wrong? How can I be better? How can I be
Mhm.
open? These kind of things, like you're gonna be just stuck in your ways
That's
and not
really
grow
true.
as much as
Yeah.
you could.
Oh, it's so good. There's so many like wise words in here. I can't wait for people to be able to listen. When you look toward the future, what are you most excited about?
Well, like we were just saying, I think realizing that okay, I've been very blessed and fortunate, and our business has grown and we do well, but we could be so much better.
Yeah.
And I think that it's sort of like a epiphany, light bulb type moment where you're just like we can make this better. We can take it to the next level.
Yes.
I actually, whether through luck or chance or hard work, like we've gotten some good projects, we've got a good team, and let's continue to invest in this and keep building it and making it better.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
amazing. John, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on. This was a blast, as always.
Yeah, awesome, Lauren. Thanks so much.